Hi guys, my name is Karthik and I am from easyautomation.com and welcome to another video for EA Weekend video series. And this video will be talking about an introduction to the end-to-end test automation with Cypress automation testing tool revisited. So this is like a revisiting of the same automation testing tool that we discussed almost like 3 years before. So if you just search for introduction to Cypress in the YouTube, you will see that we talked about the Cypress introduction all the way in 2018, like introduction to automation testing with Cypress. And then a lot of things have changed. And if you even remember, I released a course in Cypress in Udemy like this, like there are so many things evolved. So I talked about introduction, getting started, working with advanced feature of Cypress, behavioral driven development, XHR, API testing, CI/CD, page object models, reporting, GitHub action integrations, and continuous integration with other testing tool like Jenkins, and then different versions of it, and network stubbing and component testing, which is the latest version of Cypress. But we're not going to talk really about all these things today, but we're going to see how Cypress have really changed all these time, at least from 2018 through 2021, and we'll see what has really been evolved all these days. So let's get started with that. So the content of the video is going to look something like this. We are going to talk about the introduction, installation and getting started, setting up TypeScript settings, writing a simple code with XHR, understanding alias and assertions, working with Cypress Studio, understanding before each, writing a bit more complex codes, and coming to a conclusion. So that's going to be the content of this whole discussion that we are going to be doing. So without wasting any further time, let's get started. So first thing which I'm going to do is installation and getting started. So for doing that, the first thing is I'm just going to open my terminal over here, and over here I'm going to call this as E2E Cypress, and then I'm just going to navigate to the E2E Cypress, and then I'm going to start working with the npm initializations and stuff. So for doing that, the first thing which I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the npm init. So this is going to do a initialization of the package.json file for us. So I'm going to do that, and it's going to ask me what is the package name that I need to give. I'm just going to leave it to E2E Cypress. I'm going to leave the version as 1.1, and I'm going to call the description as end-to-end testing of Cypress demo, and the entry point can be this, and the test command can be Cypress of open, and then there is no git repo yet, and the keyword is going to be Cypress E2E Cypress, and the author is me, and there is no licensing problem. I'm all happy with that. That's it. So that's the creation of the package.json file for us. So if you just do an ls, you can see there is going to be a package.json file, and the content of the package.json file is going to look something like this that we have created right now. And once we have this package.json file, it is pretty much good to go for us to start installing the Cypress within it. So far we have not really installed the Cypress, so we are going to install the Cypress over here. So in order to install the Cypress, we need to do this: npm install --save -dev. This is as a dev dependency, and then if I just install Cypress like this, it is going to start installing the latest version of Cypress for me within this E2E Cypress directory, and it's going to be --save dev, which means it's a dev dependency, so it's going to be added for us. And you can see that it has added 219 packages and also audited 220 packages. For some reason this one is not there. That's it, it is done. And now if you do an ls, you can see that we also have a node modules. So within this node modules, if you're very much interested, you can just see that we will have an Cypress installed for us. So if you see all the way here, you can see that we have a Cypress and all its dependency packages, which is quite cool. And now I'm going to use our favorite editor, which is going to be the Visual Studio Code, which is going to help us start getting started writing code much easily. So if I just open the code dot, you can see that I will get a Visual Studio Code coming up for me, and it has the same node modules and the package.json file that we just created. So this is what we just created and it's all coming up for us. And now we are going to start writing the code within the Cypress. So we are almost done with these two things right now. The next one is setting up the TypeScript settings. So by default, Cypress has the support of JavaScript, but we can write the TypeScript coding as well, which is quite interesting if you wanted to do that. In order to do that, again, Cypress natively support TypeScript, so it is much easy to get started. There is no big change that you need to be doing. All you need to do is you need to install the TypeScript. That's it. So once you install the TypeScript, then you're pretty good to go. So in order to install the TypeScript, once again, you can just do this: npm install --save -dev of TypeScript. That's it. And once you do that, it's going to install the TypeScript for us over here. So once this is there, we are ready to go with writing TypeScript code. But again, as recommended by Cypress, you need to add some of the tsconfig.json file in the Cypress folder. And now you may be wondering that we don't really have a Cypress folder here. Where is the Cypress? I just installed the Cypress, but the Cypress doesn't really exist. Where does this Cypress really is sitting? So in order to understand that, we need to first of all open the Cypress or invoke the Cypress. So in order to do that, I'm just going to open the integrated terminal within my IDE instead of just using this terminal that you are seeing over here. And I'm just going to do this: npx cypress open. So if I just do that, you will see that it is going to invoke the Cypress installation that we just did, and it brings up this particular Cypress application for us. And this Cypress will also create a directory like fixture, integration, plugins, and support for you. And these are some of the most interesting folders, and I have talked a lot about this in my course. So yes, this is amazing structure that you really need to understand about. And yes, now we have Cypress over here. We have a very much running Cypress test. So if you open any one of the spec.js file, you will see that it is going to actually run the test for you. And this is something which is created by the Cypress team for you to run and understand how to write the code and how the testing can be done and stuff. So this is, yes, this is something which is already sitting a live running test for you, just to showcase you like how Cypress works. So yes, this is right now working, but all these tests, as you can see over here, are all written in the JavaScript using spec.js file. But the one which we are going to be writing is TypeScript. So in order to do that, as I told you, let's close this test for now. We are going to create a file and call as tsconfig.json file. So I'm going to just create that tsconfig.json file. And within this tsconfig.json file, we need to add the compiler options, something like this. So this is the compiler option which is required to be specified so that it tells you that you are going to be running the ts file as one of the file within the Cypress itself. So we have this guy over here, and let's start creating our first test, which is going to be sitting within the Cypress integration folder, or it can be in any folder, but I'm going to prefer writing that in the integration folder itself. So as I said, setting up TypeScript is also done, and we're going to write a simple code right now. So in order to do that, the first thing which I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the integrations folder, and I'm going to create a file. I'm going to call this as first test.ts file. So you can see that it is a TypeScript extension, and over here I'm going to start writing the code. So in order to write the code in TypeScript, the very easiest thing that you need to do is you can just use this describe of Mocha, where you can write the describe block. And again, Cypress automatically supports TypeScript natively. You don't even have to specify the required directive like how you do in the references of the JS file. In some of the files, you don't even have to do any such things in the Cypress. You can just use describe over here, and then you can start working with it. So I'm just going to say the describe block as complete code base of E2E test. That's it. and I'm just gonna create the block over here. So this is the describe block which I'm going to be using. And within this describe block, I'm going to write an it block. And the it block, which I'm going to just say that I'm going to be writing a like launching EA website, something like that. So I'm just going to do that over here. So this way it's going to launch the website for us. So how do I start writing or launch a website, which is the first thing which you need to do in the web-based application? Now to do that, you're going to use this keyword called a Cy for Cypress. And then if you hit dot, you can see there are a lot of methods going to pop in, like click, double click, clear storage, clock, debug, each, emit, and there are so many different methods coming in. But the one which we are interested in is going to be the visit method. Within this visit method, we can actually tell Cypress that what site or which site we are going to be interested in to visit itself. So I'm just going to say I need to visit the executeautomation.com website. So this way it's going to open the website for me and it's going to visit there. But it doesn't do anything at the moment because I have just written the code and it is not going to visit the site for us. In order to do that, once again, you need to do this npx cypress open, which is gonna launch the launcher of the Cypress, which is this one. And over here, you can see the test that we have written. The first test.ts file is also going to be displayed. And if we click this guy, it is going to open the Chrome version 90 for us to run that particular website test that we have written. And you can see by default, it has chosen my Chrome version 90, which is installed within my machine, and it is taking up that. And you may be wondering if there are any cross-browser support in Cypress. Of course, yes. You can actually see that if you just choose this drop-down, you will have support of Firefox, Edge Chrome browser, Electron browser, and of course, Chrome browser. So there are 4 browser supports already there, but not Safari yet. But yes, you can do your tests of application using these browsers. So this is working fine at the moment. And you may be noting that once I start running the test, it has opened another window like this. And this is called as a test runner, where it actually shows you the application which is being executed, like this one, executeautomation.com website, and also shows my application being loaded in a bit more nasty way though. So yeah, it's working pretty much as expected over here. The site is loading a bit upscaled or downscaled over here, but it's looking all right to me. And every time it loads, you can also see there are some details like XHR coming up, something like this. It also shows that this XHR, after loading, it is going to show the application for you. And this XHR, while I go over here, once I hover over here, it actually does a real time travel, like what is going to be the behavior of the application during that particular point of time. That's why you can see that the application is now kind of corrupted. The reason being the page has been loaded. So before this particular XHR, the site was not even loaded, like it was something like this. And once it is loaded, it is going to look something like this. So before it was like that, and after it is like this. So this is the time travel feature of Cypress. Yeah, so this is also working pretty much as expected, which is quite cool. And the next thing is we are going to see how we can actually enhance the code that we have written at the moment. But so far what we did is we have actually completed writing a super simple line of code. And you may be wondering, this is not even a single line of code that we have written, but just don't worry about it yet. We are going to be writing more code in this particular demo. And the next one, as I've shown you over here, we have a lot of XHRs here. One of the major benefits of having Cypress is you have the access to the Chrome Dev tool and all its related XHR information. So if you just see the inspect element over here, this is the exact same Chrome Dev tool experience coming up for us over here. So if I just run this particular test once again like that, you will see that it is going to visit our application. It's also going to show all the XHR being requested within our site. So these are the same XHR which is being shown over here, which is coming up. And once I click on AXHR, it also going to show us the details which are being used to load within my website over here. So these are the details which are being loaded over here as a data within my website. And that's the power of XHR. So we can see if that XHR is actually loaded or not. And if it is loaded, then how is this site being displayed and stuff. So we can see that this XHR detail is actually one of the most important data for my website. So we can test if this XHR really exists from Cypress much easily using network interception and getting its detail using alias. So we are going to see how we're going to write a simple code with XHR and also doing an alias and performing an assertions right now. So in order to do that, I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to write one more it block, and I'm going to call this as XHR testing. And I'm going to just do something like this, like a block creation. And over here, I'm just going to do like sci dot. There are many different ways that you can actually intercept the network. But the first thing which I basically prefer is to use the sci dot intercept. This one. But earlier to sci.intercept, there is something called a sci.server like this. And you can see that it's currently been deprecated by Cypress team. They are recommending us to use what is called as intercept over here. So it is deprecated, use sci.intercept instead. So the sci.server and sci.root was something which we were using before, but those are gone at the moment. So all we need to do is sci.intercept over here, and within this intercept we can actually tell which API that we wanted to intercept itself. So we need to tell Cypress that what we are trying to intercept. Again, the interception is something which we are going to be doing using for this particular API that you are seeing over here. So I'm just going to copy that over here, and I'm just going to paste the path, and then I'm just going to store these intercepted response from the website as one of the information, probably homepage. So because it is loading in the homepage, so I'm going to store all these details as a homepage over here. So this is the interception that we are doing. And once it is intercepted, once we visit the website, the next thing is we are gonna verify if that particular detail comes in for us. So in order to retrieve the alias information, we need to do this sci dot. There are many different ways. You can either use something called as get, or you can use something called as wait method if you wanted to. But I'm just going to use the wait method over here, and I'm just going to say at homepage. So the at keyword tells that we are accessing the alias, and I'm just going to say it's response dot status code should be dot. You can either use like equals or something like that, like this, or something like one off like that. Like this is going to be testing an array of elements. I'm just going to say like 200 or probably 304 or something like that. You can just verify that as well. So I'm just going to do this particular thing. So once I do a save, you will see that the test is actually running for us over there, and it has failed. And this is pretty much expected, and tells that sci.wait could not find a registered alias for the home page. Where is this alias actually, and how do you really call this? Well, you may be thinking we have an alias over here, it should have executed, but why is that not being executed? Well, that's a good question, because we are actually running the test like a different it blocks. Those it blocks are actually completely independent of each other. There is no way that you can tell the test actually can talk between one it block to another it block. So in order to overcome this problem, we have to somehow tell that these two it blocks are going to be using a same structure of data, or same data that it has to use. So in order to tell that, we actually need to use what is called as a before each block like this, where we're actually gonna copy paste this code over here. So this before each block is going to be executed each and every time while the application is being loaded. And you can see that it is kind of working fine at the moment. So this before each block is something useful for each and every each block, which is going to be used within this particular describe block. So make sure that you actually use the before each block. If not, you cannot really run the test or use the alias or any fixtures like data that you're going to be using. So yes, the before each block is the most important block that you should be using at the moment for that. Well, we have really not used this it block at the moment. That's why you can see that this test actually says that this home page is aborted because there's nothing on that particular test, but the XHR testing is working fine, and it says that the expected 200 to be one of the 200 of 304. So 200 is actually coming, and it's even been asserted, which is quite cool. So we could able to do a simple assertions using the should method of Cypress, which is cool. You can also do assertions in a even more advanced way if you wanted to. Instead of the sci.wait like its method, we can also do something like sci.wait of then method if you wanted to. So like something like this, sci.wait of at homepage. Oops, so it has written all those things for me automatically. And then I'm just gonna say probably I'm just also gonna say a request comma response, and within this request comma response, we are actually going to do an expect method, this one. And within this expect, I'm gonna say response dot body dot courses, and I know that there is something called as courses within my response like these. So these are the courses, and if I wanted to see if the courses has a length of above probably 20, because I know it's been 27. So if I wanted to verify this, I can verify that as well. So you can see that once it is executing for me, it's passing. So we're expecting it to be above 20, the actual is 27, so it's working fine, which is pretty cool. Or we can also do some more thing over here. So I can say probably expect the courses of the 0 to have a property of probably something like a title, which has a value. I think the first title of the course is going to be Selenium Grid with Docker. So I'm just going to copy this value. I'm going to paste it over here. And if I run this test at the moment, you can see that it will also work fine for me without any problem over here. You can see that it's all working fine, which is cool. So yeah, this is how we can do some more testing of assertions and also alias and interceptions. And I mean, I have discussed an even more better way of doing it in my course using even the UI elements of the website in Cypress course of Udemy. But yes, this is better and at least useful for you to get started to understand the flavor of Cypress, like how you can do all these awesome things which you cannot really do with Selenium at the moment. So yes, writing a simple code of XHR and understanding an alias and assertions is all checked right now. The few more things, of course, we have understood the before each, which is cool. The few more thing is Cypress Studio and bit more complex code. Let's see how to do that. Well, I'm not really going to complicate the behavior of how it is working at the moment. So in order to understand the Cypress itself, like Cypress has got many different features which is not even there at the moment, and some of the features which is there in experimental or still in experimental for few more months at least before it is being released to the general public. And you can see that the studio is one of the experimental feature of the Cypress itself. So if you're going to use any experimental feature, we need to enable this in the cypress.json file to start using it. And I'm going to show you that's exactly what it is in the Cypress Studio to perform a bit more complex code. So if I just go to the cypress.json file over here, and if I just put the experimental studio as true, once I save this, you can see that the test will just quit, which is all right. I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna open it again, and you will see that this time it's going to enable the Cypress runner with even bit more features. So if you go to the settings and see the experimental, you can see that the enabled studio or the experimental studio has been enabled. And now if you go to the test, the first test.ts file, it is going to run exactly the same test for us this time that we just ran, but there is a few more change happened this time, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So you can see that the Cypress test ran pretty much like how it was running even before, but just that this time it has got a new option called as add commands to test. So this is the new feature of Cypress Studio. So if you just add this, you will see that it is going to run the before each as usual, like how it was doing before. But once that's completed, it is going to tell you to interact with your site to add a test command, which means it is going to act like a recorder for us at the moment. So we can do some sort of recording if you wanted to. For example, if I wanted to sign in to my website, so let's say if I want to just do a sign up probably, and I'm just going to say Karthik@geek, and I want my password to be password Karthik, and I just wanted to check if this feature works fine within my website. So enter the password again, password, oops, I think I entered wrong password. And I hail from New Zealand, and my profession is testing. I'm gonna just create an account at the moment, and it's gonna ask me to choose an avatar, which is cool, and create the account. And once I do that, it tells you that the email has already been taken, which is quite cool. This is something which I'm expecting my site to behave because I've already taken this email address. So I'm just going to hit OK at the moment. So my testing is kind of passed. This is what I'm expecting my site to behave, and this is working fine without any problem. So I'm just going to see all the recording that I have did at the moment is all coming up over here, which is quite cool. So now you can even delete the command if you don't think is relevant for your recording purpose that you have did, or if you are very happy with whatever recording that you have did, you can just hit the save command, and you can see that once it is saved, it is going to perform the same operation that we just did over here, and it's trying to do the exact same operation, and the test has got passed, which is quite cool. And now the magic begins. If you see your Visual Studio on the first test.ts file, it will have all the recording of your test that you just did. I think it should be there over here. So let me just, I think I forgot to save it. So let me just close this. Probably if I just close it, it will come. I'm so sorry about it. I thought it was gonna save for me and it didn't. So let me just save this guy again, and it tells you that failed to save the TS file because the content is new. So let's see if I compare. Yeah, there we go. It's just been saved over here, which is quite cool. I don't know, for some reason the Visual Studio Code has stopped really doing that for me. So I'm just gonna probably copy these contents, and I'm just going to say merge over here. Just gonna save it, which is cool. So now that I have all these test details, and just do a format document. Cool. So I'm just gonna save this once again, and let's go to the Cypress. Let me stop and run the test once again and see if this really works. So you could see that my test is actually passing without any problem. So this is how I could write a complex UI operation using Cypress in a much easier fashion. And that checks our another box of working Cypress Studio and bit more complex code. The final one is the conclusion. But even before going with that, I also wanted to show you even a nice little feature Cypress has got inbuilt. For example, the fluent way of writing the code, or chaining your command in Cypress. For example, if you want to clear and then type this particular value, like how it did in 2 lines of code over here on the generated code, you could actually do it using the chaining operation. So once it is cleared, you can hit the type, something like this, and then you can type the value that you have at the moment over here, something like this. This works pretty much exactly the same how it used to behave with 2 lines of code. Similarly, you could do the exact same thing from the line of code over here as well, and you don't really have to do the same operation that you have did for the password. And similarly, you can do for all the different lines of code, which makes your line of code even more simpler instead of having a lot of lines over here. And you can keep decreasing that as much as possible. So that's it, guys. This is how we can keep writing our code in a much easier fashion in Cypress. And there are even more things about Cypress itself. Like you can do component testing, you can do mocking and stubbing, and you can also do CI/CD integration, running in Docker containers, and a lot of things. As I told you, I have covered in my course in a lot more detail. But yes, this is what is Cypress introduction after almost 3 years, once again, to just show you how Cypress actually works and how it has evolved over time. Once again, thank you very much for watching this video, and you guys have a great day.